So,
Okay, so in Intellect, we like to do homeless editions out in this place.
every place.
Out this place. We're in Albuquerque talking about some cool stuff today.
We're actually right next to the city hall.
We're in City Hall to talk about some big deal stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So, let's get started.
We're a big deal, right? We're kind of a big deal,
Not
aren't
really.
we?
Well, yeah.
No, we're not.
I'm a big deal.
You might be
Europe.
a big deal. In Europe?
UK. Okay, guys, you guys know that in Intellect, we try to think outside the box. We got to innovate, think beyond just what we're told, and try to see what the next opportunity is and all that kind of
See
stuff.
what the truth is in a situation.
Hold on. Getting ahead. You're trying to translate.
Whoa,
I was
okay.
getting to that part.
Okay.
Silly. This guy.
I'm right
He
here.
thinks I don't know what I'm saying. So we're innovative, but we're also trying to get to the truth of the things, too.
That's what I just said.
Yeah, but you made it sound like I was confused. Just kidding.
He's often confused.
I am really confused. I'm so thankful Jill's here to translate the things I'm trying to say. No, but yeah, but it's also including innovating and trying to think of the next ideas and thinking a little bit different. We're also doing something where we like to investigate a little beyond what we're told. The evidence, the stories we're told every day, they're part of something that's trying to program us to think a certain way. It's kind of a weird thing to say, that we're being programmed or that we're trying to be influenced by people every day, but this is a real thing that's happening every single day, and most people know it.
You really are. I mean, marketing is trying to influence you to buy the product, right? Is that bad? No, not necessarily. You just need to be in control of your own thoughts, your own cognition. Your brain is yours. You shouldn't just leave that to other people. So everybody knows we're trying to be persuaded to do things all the time.
Yeah.
And
there's innocent forms of that. Buy an
There is.
iPhone because it's the best iPhone out there. Well,
Right.
maybe it's not the best phone out there, but somebody wants you to believe that, and it's
Right.
okay for them to want you to believe that the
Sure.
iPhone's out
Just
there.
trying to make a buck.
The problem is when you get misinformed of something.
Right.
Like, iPhones will make you fly.
Yeah.
Well, no,
I
iPhones don't make you fly.
I thought that.
They don't.
And then I went and bought an iPhone. It didn't make me fly. They wouldn't give me my money back. I couldn't find that commercial where it said it'd make me fly.
You could have sued them if that was real, but somehow that was just a dream you had or something. I don't
Must have
know.
made
Okay,
that up. Maybe you told me that. You're the one that just said it. I'm suing you. So whenever somebody crosses the line and goes beyond marketing and goes to manipulation for some other means, that's when we have to draw the line.
Yeah.
But the thing, like Daniel said, is we have a choice of what messages we let into our head, right?
Yeah.
So we want to talk about yellow journalism. Mention
Yeah.
what yellow journalism is there, Dan.
So yellow journalism,
Daniel.
basically yellow journalism is like the form of propaganda that we think of as bad. Now, yellow journalism is a term that doesn't really come up in topics anymore. When it first started happening, people were very, very negative about it because the king of yellow journalism, is actually a film about him called Citizen Kane.
Go check that movie out.
It's based on him, and it was actually a slander campaign on him because people were so disgusted with what he did, which he basically started a war. And he's not the first person to do it, but he's like the guy where people knew, okay, this
Became
guy
a public
did this.
knowledge thing.
He started a war just by reporting things that weren't true.
Right.
And that's the deal. They weren't true things. It's one thing to report stuff that is true and is like bad, but this wasn't that case.
But he lied to get something started, to start a conflict. And it's not just a movie. That was based on real life, and that wasn't the only time that's happened. There's another guy named Edward Bernays. And anybody who listens to the Stuff They Don't Want You to Know podcast on a regular basis knows about this guy. If you don't listen to that, you really should. It's really awesome.
Yeah.
This guy's really good. So plug for that podcast. And they're on YouTube. They got a YouTube channel. So they got all their videos.
2 for 1.
Boom. Check it out.
Okay.
2 booms for 1. So there's this guy, Edward Bernays. He's known as the father of PR, public relations. And so what he did, he was born down, turn of the century, turn of the last century. I guess we're pretty close to turn of the century right now.
Old.
100 years ago, more or less. And so he was a master at manipulating public opinion. And there's lots of things he did. Go check him out. Go listen to their episodes on Edward Bernays and you'll learn all kinds of stuff. One of the most notable things he did is there was a company called the United Fruit Company these days known as Chiquita Bananas. They did business in Guatemala. Guatemala was run by a communist country, and they were pushing this company out, but this was their profit center. They got their bananas from here, and it was a big deal for them, money-wise. So they went to Edward Bernays, PR company, and they were like, we need you to fix this for us. We need to do business in Guatemala. Fix it. So what he did is he convinced the American public, through journalism, through other things, he wasn't a journalist himself, but through other people, that communism was bad.
Yeah. Here's the big push for that negative connotation that we do feel today towards communism.
And no matter what you feel about communism, I don't like it personally, for plenty of reasons, but he was the guy that started that ball rolling.
Yeah.
And he did that so that the United States government would back the guerrilla fighters in the jungles of Guatemala to overthrow the government of Guatemala, so that Chiquita Bananas could sell their bananas.
Yeah, he's basically like all those things that we today don't know all the facts about, but we're like, oh, they're definitely manipulating us to go to war with Iraq and go to war with all these different countries in the Middle East. He was a guy that actually did something like that, where he manipulated the information, manipulated the public opinion, and created a war. So this stuff happens, and it creates big policies in our government, which you don't have a choice in.
And even more recently, and even more large, was the Operation, was it Desert Storm? In Kuwait. That was actually, there was a lot of fabricated stories. There were a lot of fabricated stories and straight up lies told to Congress. This is documented that started that. Yeah. They said they had a girl say that they were taking babies in incubators, that the Iraqi forces were coming into Kuwait, taking babies in incubators and killing them. And it was completely untrue. No matter what you think about Saddam Hussein and the way Iraq was run, this thing was started with lies.
So we're not saying necessarily like that the conflicts and all these things, we're not necessarily saying that they were all bad. That's for history to decide. We can't be the judge of that. We really can't. I think people sometimes think that they can be the judge of all these things, but we really can't. We can stand up for our rights. We can stand up for our beliefs and stuff. So I'm totally fine with whatever side of these policies you fall on. But the problem isn't necessarily what happened. It's the way things were manipulated and lied to us to get what somebody wanted done. And we should never, ever pursue something based off lies, because then you can never back up what you're doing. If your whole life is based on lies, then you really have no policy. You have no way of going forward. And
anytime you watch a news story, read an article, see a blog post, watch a YouTube video that directs you to feel a certain way about a topic, stop yourself and double check, because that's a bias right off the bat. No matter what, that has been biased to you. So double check yourself, and don't get 100% behind something with only one information source. Get varied information sources.
So a recent thing that's happened, and this is why we're talking about this, because a recent thing that's happened that you can go and do the research yourself right now. You can kind of get involved and look at the footage and say, hey, was this something that's being pushed on my emotions, or is this really something that happened?
It was the Virginia shooting. The shooting where the guy killed a couple reporters on live TV. There's a lot of footage around that. Some of it's kind of become hard to find for one reason or another, that shows that that's not necessarily what really happened.
I mean, it could full very well be a true story. It's hard to believe that somebody would commit to pretending to be dead and going off to someplace.
It's
you know what I mean?
Weird.
Two people basically devoting their lives to living somewhere where no one can find them. That's hard to believe. It's much more easy to believe that they were actually shot and actually killed. But because of the footage that we have, none of it looks real.
A lot of things really don't line up.
It could be real, but it doesn't look real.
It could be, but it really doesn't look like it. And it looks like even if it was real, some other things have been taking place to kind of magnify this public effect that's going on. Anytime there's a big news story, especially if it involves violence, be suspicious.
Now, violence happens all the time, so it's like, well, what about the real stories of violence? What now, if a reporter reports on it, can we not believe it? No, not at all. That's not true. That's not how it works. But this one has been, from the very beginning of when it came out, it had a lot of propaganda just being pushed immediately after it.
It was being used as a propaganda engine.
Right. And the parents of the alleged dead have been really pushing for gun control right off within less than 24 hours.
Offering a lot of proof.
Yeah, proof of their relationship, which is weird to offer proof of your relationship.
Why would you need to offer proof when you're just in mourning?
Yeah.
When a family member of mine dies, I don't go around trying to show people this.
Look
was
at our
actually
relationship.
My family member.
Yeah,
this
look at
is real.
So there's some weird, fishy things about it. It just brings up this point of like we really have to question what's being fed to us.
Right.
It's not necessarily like it's wrong. It's not necessarily untrue, but it really reminds us that we're in a very manipulative world.
Yeah, we are. We're in a society that where some people know what control they have and they know how to wield it.
Yeah.
Anytime you see something like this, think, okay, who's benefiting? It doesn't make you a bad person to think, okay, all these people died. How are you going to walk around saying who's benefiting? Well, I understand you do need to have emotion, but you also need to stop and think, who is actually benefiting from this news? Maybe not the event, but the news. Who's benefiting from this coverage?
Yeah.
And follow the money. That's what people say. Follow the money. Follow who's getting paid or who's getting their way.
Yeah. So, all that said, you know, we don't like to be insensitive to the situation.
Yeah.
The facts are that there were 2 people killed, and that's a horrible tragedy. Third person killed himself, and that's just this very, very, very sad situation.
It is.
So,
Absolutely.
you know, our sorrows go out to the loss, but at the same time, there is something where you just have to remember there's a lot of agenda being pushed. Even if it is real, the agenda and the push here is just kind of unsettling how concentrated it is.
Right. And no matter which side of a debate you sit on, you definitely don't want to be fed lies and being led to believe things because of lies.
Right. If you're being pushed emotionally by certain things, it's a pretty scary place to be. Because wars get created because emotional push. Yeah.
So we always want to encourage you guys to think for yourselves. That's why we call ourselves Indie Intellect.
Yeah.
And, you know, we don't necessarily like to have to talk about stuff like this, but we feel like it's something that, you know, needs to be said. People need to think for themselves. It's a good thing.
Probably one of the reasons we don't like to talk about it is because the information is so, like, unsure. We can't say 100% for anything.
Right.
So it's kind of like, well, we don't like to talk about things we don't know 100% on. But at the same time, you can't just ignore it and pretend like it's not there. So,
true.
Anyway.
True that.
Guys, thanks for watching. Let us know if you like hearing stuff like this. Let us know what your thoughts on this whole situation.
Yeah. We'll try to link to some videos about, you know, Edward Bernays and all these different things. We'll try to link to some information on Citizen Kane, so you can check that out. It's probably on Netflix or something.
We won't be linking to the Virginia stuff, because anytime you link to that stuff, your channel gets demonetized.
Right. But you can go search for POV, Virginia shooting, to get the first person.
And don't worry about the violence in it. There isn't really anything to see. There's no blood. Even though you see her get shot right in the stomach, there's no blood or any.
There was never a bullet impact in any of the videos.
Yeah, so there's nothing to be like wearisome. It is sensitive content though, so
any video on any gaming channel is going to be far more violent than what you'll see in this. So don't worry about that.
Yeah, but it's a violent footage.
It is.
So, you know, if you're sensitive to gun violence, you definitely don't want to watch that. But there's no blood.
Like and subscribe. We promise the next video will be more fun and upbeat.
Yeah. We don't ever want to be all about this kind of thing, so don't worry about that. But we do like to talk about it every once in a while. So thanks,
I'm going to
guys.
make fun of him for something in the next one, I'm sure.
I'll wear a hat. Next one.
Maybe a paper bag.
I'm not famous. I can do that.
Rosa, I talked him into this. We went to Dairy Queen, and he got a chicken nugget blizzard. Said it was good. I didn't try it.
They blended the nuggets into the blizzard?
Yes. Yeah, they took them, and just like they do a blizzard, they threw the chicken nuggets in there and made a blizzard out of it. He
said it was really good.